There are many weird stories of people encountering cryptids, but some of the strangest involve people eating them. Here's your guide to the best and worst of cryptid cooking. In 1959, a very strange sighting of the dinosaur-like aquatic cryptid Mousse occurred. A group of locals had ambushed the animal in the water, building a barricade to block its retreat and attacking it with spears. After taking down the cryptid, they decided to eat the Mousse. This is where things began going downhill for the hunters. It was reported that either all or the vast majority of the hunters fell ill and died. By the time outsiders interviewed the locals about the cryptid, all of those who had eaten the creature had passed away. This raises the question, if the Mousse is real, is it poisonous? There are a few different theories about this encounter. One is that the hunters dying was coincidental, as the region is very hazardous and some sort of disease could have befallen the hunters. Another is that the Mousse itself is naturally poisonous. Finally, there's a theory that some sort of deadly bacteria was inside that particular Mousse and it infected the hunters. The giant spider of the Congo, known as the Jaba is one of the most popular cryptids in the region. But it's not just popular among cryptid enthusiasts, as it's considered a delicacy by locals. When cryptozoologist Bill Gibbons was in the area looking for information on the Mousse, he also asked locals about the Jaba. They told him that the massive spiders used to be plentiful, but by the early 2000s, sightings had become rare. Despite the Jaba being described as extremely dangerous, they seemed to taste good enough for the locals to risk hunting them. Hailing from China is the Phi, a large upright primate cryptid about 10 feet or 3 meters tall. It's said to have a piercing laughter, long hair, and large lips like an orangutan's. It was even said to eat people, as the massive animal was capable of running extremely fast. Unfortunately for the Phi, people were also said to eat it. The paws of the Phi were considered a delicacy by some locals. Author David Zhu speculated that the Phi might be an archaic human like Homo erectus, which would add a strange cannibalism twist to the story. Cryptozoologist Carl Schuker once wrote about a peculiar animal his friend Owen Burnham saw the remains of. Burnham was in Guinea when locals showed him a very rare animal called the tankong. It resembled a small zebra, but was also said to have 2 protruding canine teeth. They had eaten most of the tankong, but Burnham saw small hooves and some black and cream-colored skin from the animal. According to author Michael Newton, a Japanese snake hunter named Tokutake captured the legendary white snake with a triangular head known as the Tuchinoko, twice. Unfortunately for them, he ate both specimens. The only other detail Tokutake described were 2 rows of bones instead of 1, which could explain the Tuchinoko's wide appearance. During World War II, a Japanese doctor named Umihara and a sergeant were looking for food in New Guinea. They came across a bloated fat snake in the sand, and he hit it with his wooden shoe before eating it. The men said that the reptile tasted like chicken thighs. Years later, while watching TV, Umihara saw a program about the Japanese Tuchinoko and said that they looked exactly like what he saw in New Guinea. At a restaurant on the outskirts of Shenzhen, China, a man named Ishibashi Osamu spotted a Tuchinoko-like animal. The creature was in a tank they displayed animals to be cooked in, and it had the wide flat body and triangular head of a Japanese Tuchinoko. Interestingly, he said it had an orange head, but in Japan, Tuchinokos are usually brown, gray, or black in color. Osamu decided to have it deep fried, and he said the snake was tough and almost rubbery. In 1992, a new species was discovered in Vietnam called the Saola. This bovine is widely cited as an example of a cryptid being discovered, but that's a story for another day. You see, around the same time, a different but similar animal was reported in the same area. According to the story, a mother and her calf were caught, but the mother escaped. Before scientists could examine the calf, it had passed away and been eaten. The animal, named a tuoa, was described as having long ears and a rounded head, unlike any bovines in Vietnam. A South China Morning Post reporter speculated that the animal was well known by locals. Since they had eaten it without care, they evidently didn't know that it could have been a major scientific discovery. Or they were just really hungry. The Yamapicaria is a Japanese cryptid said to be a large wildcat with a very long tail and the markings of a leopard. The name means something with shining eyes in the mountain, and it's reported on the island of Iriomote. According to the Ryukyu Shimpo, during World War II when rations were running low, people even caught and ate the animal. While on the island of Rodriguez, French explorer Francois Legoit spotted a large two-legged bird in a marsh. It was white like a goose, 6 feet or 2 meters tall, had abnormally large feet, and had a red patch under its wings. He even said that they were capable of flight. Unfortunately for science, he ate the bird. He also claimed that the bird was fairly common and had been seen on Mauritius, but a second bird wasn't found. Some scientists even recognized Legoit's bird, but without a body, it failed to receive widespread recognition. In 1904, Baron Maurice Rothschild purchased a tusk from a seemingly unknown animal. After investigating the matter with zoologist Henry Newville, they connected it to a small aquatic pig with downward-facing tusks named the Colossochorus. It was sighted a number of times, but one interesting sighting came from the Congo Free State. According to that report, a female Colossochorus had been eaten by local villagers. Unfortunately, no parts of that animal were preserved, and the tusk the Baron purchased later went missing. Lake Nyassa is a large African lake that borders several countries. It's also allegedly home to a large and aggressive lake monster. Colonial official Sir Hector Duff was told of a couple of sightings of a large creature in the lake, but one of the strangest came from a fisherman from Malawi. He told Duff that he had seen an animal roughly the size of a cow, with the mane of a zebra, and the tail of a fish. The fisherman even claimed to have carved a steak out of it, saying it was very good. Duff himself saw a large animal in the lake, though he didn't eat it, and it didn't really resemble whatever the fisherman ate. During his expeditions into the far east of Russia, scientist George Steller saw and heard reports about a wide variety of new animals. Some of them eventually became recognized by science, like Steller sea cow and Steller sea eagle. But some of them have never been proven to exist, as is the case with Steller sea wolf. Steller never saw the animal, but was told about it multiple times by locals. They described it as a slender whale-like animal. Interestingly, Bamias notes that on the other side of the Pacific, there are also aquatic wolf cryptids like the Wasgo. Steller sea wolf was eaten by the Idelman people. However, they were careful to avoid the animal's fat, as it caused diarrhea. One of the strangest cryptids of Canada is the underwater moose, a semi-aquatic moose from Manitoba. Locals say that they spend most of their time in the water. Sometimes men in canoes would look down into clear lakes and see them resting on the bottom. The animal is said to have very thick skin, but it has been successfully hunted, or fished, a couple of times. In one instance, a hunter was able to shoot an underwater moose in the ear and bring it down. His daughter later told author John Worms that the meat was yellowish-green, chewy, and tasted very bad. On another occasion, a couple spotted a strange underwater moose with bull-like horns in a lake. They ended up trying to drown the moose for food, though it took an unusual amount of time to bring the animal down. Afterwards, they found that it had a strange scarf-like patch of skin around its neck. This time, they said the moose tasted really good. On the island of Hawaii, they used to eat a large cricket known as the Uhini Panawa. Hawaiians would put them on shish kebabs, and only a couple of them were needed for a full meal. Unfortunately, documentation of the species was scarce. By the late 1800s, the animal was seemingly extinct without being confirmed by science. The condlo is a large fowl with a red beak, red claws, and black feathers. The condlo was reported by Captain G.T. Court in the 1960s, who not only saw them on multiple occasions, but also ate them multiple times. Court was familiar with the known birds of South Africa and said that the condlo was different. Unfortunately, Court also said that the species was becoming increasingly rare. No sightings of the condlo are known after the 1960s. During a hunt for a frozen mammoth in the far east of Russia, Eugen Fisenmeyer heard about an interesting species of wild horse. Unlike local horses, they were covered in long whitish-gray hair. Biologist Colin Groves later theorized that they could be surviving Ice Age horses. The local Lamet people used them as a food source, describing them as fatty and quite good. The Yeren, the Chinese equivalent of Bigfoot, has been cooked up a couple of times. In 1949, a group of men led by a Fang County administrator killed a Yeren with machine guns. They then tried to cook the Yeren in a pot, but it tasted so bad they couldn't eat it. In 1962, a group of soldiers reportedly shot a Yeren in the Yunnan region. According to the Chinese magazine Fossils, they also claimed to have eaten meat from the cryptid. Near the Rio Peru of Brazil, anthropologist Manfred Roschert was told of a giant tortoise. He said it was only somewhat smaller than a Volkswagen in size and about 50 centimeters or 20 inches tall. According to a man named Jalu Kana, the tortoise was rare but delicious and fatty. The Wa'ab is a cryptid reported in Sudan and Ethiopia, described as a hairy humanoid with no joints in its legs. They used to be common until being overhunted by the 20th century. The Wa'ab was even sometimes said to be capable of speech. A man named Muhammad Global once passed a dead Wa'ab in a village. He examined the body, which had black fur and grayish skin. The nose of the Wa'ab was shorter than a human's, and its nostrils were closer to its eyes. Although the Wa'ab was said to taste good, Global decided not to try it. Interestingly, it was said that if the Wa'ab ate a Sodom apple, a type of bitter fruit in the region, their meat would taste bad. Another cryptid investigated by Gibbons was the Nagubu, a bulky horned animal with a beak and frill. His associate Pierre Sima was visiting the village of Nadele when he was offered food from the locals. He was told it was meat from a Nagubu they had shot a couple days earlier. According to Sima, the cryptid tasted like pork. Other parts of the Nagubu were either sold or given to dogs. Silphium is a North African cryptid plant that was used in many dishes in ancient times. Its roots and stalks were eaten, and it was also commonly used as a spice. However, it is believed to have gone extinct around the 1st century AD, and its identity remains unknown. New Caledonia is a relatively small island, but it's allegedly home to a fairly large cryptid lizard. During the 1970s, an unidentified lizard was hit and crushed by a car in the region of Bolupari. Although it was compared to a monitor lizard, New Caledonia doesn't have reptiles bigger than geckos. The locals took advantage of the free meal and ate the lizard. One of the otter cryptids of Central Africa is the crowing crested cobra. It's described as a snake with the crest of a chicken that can get over 15 meters or 49 feet in length. Charles Cordier, a friend of cryptozoology's founder Bernard Heuvelmans, knew several men who had seen it. They even claimed to have eaten the animal once, saying that its meat was pink instead of the usual white color of snake meat. The Xiao is a Chinese cryptid described as a serpentine reptile with a flexible neck, large body, and small head. They're said to get large enough to be able to overturn boats. In the 1st century BC, Emperor Zhao was said to have caught a small one while fishing. The Xiao was then cooked, and the people who ate it said it was very good. The Mumbe of Liberia is described as a mammal with armor like a pangolin and prominent teeth. Missionary John Shepherd talked with a man named Samuel Carmo, whose uncle had a terrifying encounter with the animal while hunting. When the Mumbe laid its eyes on him, it crouched low in the grass and covered itself with its scaly exterior. Carmo's uncle had a shotgun on him, but he thought the weapon wouldn't penetrate the Mumbe's armor. When the creature rose to attack him, he took advantage and shot the animal in its mouth. Unlike many of these reports, the Mumbe's body was described in detail. It was around 18 feet or 5.5 meters long. The back of the creature was covered in both black and brown armored plates and a row of short serrated spikes. The underbelly and snout of the animal had small whitish hairs. The legs were said to be especially strong, allowing it to ambush prey and stand on its hind legs. The Mumbe also had large claws for digging tunnels. After shooting the animal, Carmo's uncle ran back to the village and gathered up a few other guys to bring it back. They then ate the Mumbe. In 1987, Roy Mackal reported that a seemingly unidentified type of large monitor lizard was being sighted and eaten in Cameroon and Gabon. It was said to be up to 13 feet or 4 meters in length, and it had a gray or sandy coloring. Two scientists, one an anatomist and another an ichthyologist, even claimed to see the animal. The lizard was reportedly eaten by locals, who said that it tasted very good. I think these stories add a human element to cryptid sightings. There are thousands of cryptid reports out there, so it makes sense that people would have eaten at least a couple. Obviously, they range in plausibility, but maybe the reason scientists haven't found some of the tastier cryptids is because we ate them all. Let me know which cryptid you'd most like to eat in this video. If you're a vegetarian, let me know if you'd rather eat the giant pitcher plant of New Jersey or the man-eating tree of Madagascar. Big thank you to the Cryptid Archive for helping out on this one. If you'd like to read more about these cryptids, check that wiki out. Also a big thank you to my Patreons Timothy, Wildworld, Jason Cook, John R., and Gerhard. If you'd like to support me, check my Patreon out. I'll have polls there about future videos and other interesting finds I make. I would also like to shout out Fish and Grits, Pondicherry, Bamias, Master Tyrannosaurus, Brandon, and Robin. Huge thank you to the many artists featured in this video, including Jay Tellez and Robert Woodard who did the thumbnail. If you'd like to see more fantastic art, check the link I'll have in the description. Thank you for watching, stay tuned for more, and I will see you in the next video.